Well, hello there, fellow geeks and geekettes, and welcome to another review video. Well, today I'm reviewing Dark Knight's Death Metal, issue 6, and I do have to admit that I have got mixed feelings about the entire crossover event called Dark Knight's Death Metal, whose main storyline is written by Scott Snyder and illustrated by Greg Capullo. Now, what are my problems with this particular event? They are very much connected with what I like about this event. Let's just start with the positives. I like the writing of Scott Snyder. He's a very competent writer. He's a clever man. He's a skilled writer. He started off as a prose writer, and I believe that this is mainly what he should be doing, right? Prose, epic prose, because he's got grand ideas and talent for writing epic stories, which we can see when reading Dark Knight's Death Metal. And the Dark Knight's Death Metal, on the other hand, presents itself as a kick-ass, action-packed crossover event, which was advertised in a very similar way as the Dark Knight's Metal was a couple of years ago, its predecessor. Now, what it appeared to be is a comic book that everybody can read and just have fun. Yeah, it's metal. Let's read it. Oh yeah, let's just have fun. Like, throw away all thoughts and all deep metaphysical ideas and just have fun. No, you can't do that when reading Dark Knight's Death Metal. You need to have deep and vast knowledge of DC Multiverse and its history. All the crises that have happened, be it Crisis on Infinite Earths, be it the Infinite Crisis, be it the Final Crisis, or other crossover events such as The Blackest Night or The Brightest Day, and so on and so forth. Other than that, you will need to have knowledge of a lot of things that had happened before Dark Knight's Death Metal. Since Dark Knight's Metal, so between Dark Knight's Metal and Dark Knight's Death Metal. So in order for you to properly enjoy Dark Knight's Death Metal, you need to read a lot of material, which is not a problem for me. I've read a lot of DC Comics, and as far as the material between Dark Knight's Metal and Death Metal go, I know about what happened, although I haven't read everything. As I said, I don't read many modern comic books. Now, it most certainly isn't a action-packed fun that you just can read just by itself. And it is not, by any stretch of the imagination, something that would be metal connected. And I'm not talking about the music now. I'm talking about what the Dark Knight's Metal was about. It was about the metals, the materials that made the DC Multiverse and that were very important for the history of not only Batman, but other characters of DC Multiverse. We have shifted to different places, to anti-crises and crisis energies, which is okay. I mean, the title is misleading, but this can be overlooked. And one more thing, it's not Dark Knight related anymore. Batman is not the main character by any stretch of the imagination. He isn't even one of the more important supporting characters. The main character of this entire story is Wonder Woman. I wouldn't have any problems with that. I like the character of Wonder Woman as much as any other character who is written good. So I don't think that we should really consider Dark Knight's Death Metal as being a bad title, as we did Dark Knight's Metal. So that's another thing. And the last gripe I've got with the Dark Knight's Metal, now Scott Snyder's illusions of grandeur being put aside for a moment, his obsession with Grant Morrison being put aside for a moment, his inability to create a simple comic book just for fun that everybody can enjoy without being able to pay attention and keep the attention for a long time without any huge and vast knowledge of the multiverse, without being willing to think for a bit. All this being put aside, because you need to have these things if you want to read one of the Scott Snyder's comic books. And in this way, I'd consider him a bit pretentious, because, on one hand, he's saying that this should be just fun. On the other hand, he just can't get rid of his prose writing style. But as I said, I myself can cope with that. I don't have any problems with that. I love reading prose, epic prose, so I really don't have any problems with that. I know that a lot of people do have problems with the complexity of Scott Snyder's writing, and that you have to know a lot about the other books and the other material and the history, and you have to keep up with everything, and that you have to remember a lot of things. People just don't like to think. I don't have problems with that. What I do have huge problems with is the execution of this crossover event in general, as a whole. Now you've got, and I thought there were only going to be 6 main issues of the main storyline. Now I finished the 6th issue, and I realized that it isn't it, because the last page said to be concluded, and it of course didn't conclude with the 6th issue, so there's going to be more. But so you've got so far 6 main issues, but you can't read them just by themselves. You have to absolutely do need to read each and every single time issue. Now, the way, for example, The Blackest Night was written back then in about 2008, 2009, and it is still my favorite crossover event, and indeed my favorite story by DC Comics. It was composed of 6 or 7 main issues that you could read by itself, and then there were mainly Green Lantern oriented issues that were tie-ins. So Green Lantern, the main ongoing Green Lantern series, tied in with Blackest Night, Green Lantern Corps tied in with Blackest Night, and then you had other tie-ins, just Batman Blackest Night, Wonder Woman Blackest Night, Batman Superman Blackest Night, and so on and so forth. But if you didn't read those tie-ins, nothing serious happened. Those tie-ins just expanded your knowledge and your view of the entire storyline, and that was cool. And it made you want to read the tie-ins, because you wanted to know more about this very well written story, of course written by Geoff Johns. But this is absolutely freaking ridiculous what they did with Death Metal. So for example, just to illustrate it, you have to read issue 1, obviously, but then in between issue 1 and issue 2 there are 3 tie-ins that are actually continuations of issue 1, and the issue 2 of the main storyline is only then continuation of the story from those 3 freaking tie-ins. So this is extremely confusing. I mean, if you wanted to make an event that would be 20 or 30 issues long, why not just all make it one title of 20 issues, issue 1 to issue 20? It would be much easier to follow, and then much easier to collect when they are collecting it in a collected edition. But if you have to read issue 1, and then you have to read Dark Knight, Death Metal, Extreme Crisis, or the different anthologies that are mostly composed of stories about the Dark Multiverse, but in between there is one single piece of information, important information that you need for the main story. Jesus freaking Christ, it's so, so you really have to pay attention to what comes out when, make a list, and then read it in this particular order, because otherwise you might, if you just wanted to read issue 1 to issue whatever of the main series, you would have huge gaps in knowledge. You would say, Like, you would finish issue 1, then you would start issue 2, and you would be saying, what the fuck? What happened in between? Like, they are talking about something completely different than, in issue 2 than what happened in issue 1. So that's my biggest problem with this particular crossover event. So as I said, I can handle Scott Snyder's illusions of grandeur. I can handle his complex writing. I can handle his metaphysical, epic writing. It's okay. I do like it, actually. I can also be okay with him saying something about the series, but then the series being something completely different. I can handle the series not being about Batman specifically, as it was presented to be, because, as I said, I love Wonder Woman, and I love the artwork of Greg Capullo, but man, DC, like, your publishing skills have been becoming very, very poor lately, as far as both single issues and collected editions. So maybe you should try to do something like that. Like, I know that DC Comics is probably going to die soon, and the publishing rights are going to get to, I don't know, like Penguin Random House or something like that. But so DC as a comic book publisher is going to die. But if there was a miracle of some sort in 2021 and DC Comics was to survive, it isn't. But if, let's say, ideally, in an ideal world, if DC Comics was to survive, they would have to change their strategy greatly as far as publishing goes. So they would have to hire more competent and skilled editors, and they would have to set up a completely new publishing team and collected edition publishing team. So yeah, that's it. That's how I would summarize my approach to Dark Knight's Death Metal so far, without really spoiling anything of the plot, because this isn't about the plot. It's just about the confusion that this particular crossover event brings about. So what do you think, my friends? Have you read Dark Knight's Death Metal main series and its bazillion, million, gazillion tie-ins that are extremely and crucially important for the main series, or not? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, do not forget to dislike this video if you don't like it. Like this video if you like it, and subscribe to this unimportant channel of an unimportant geek talking about unimportant things. That'll be all from me. See you soon. Keep reading good stuff, and bye.